which is, a national holiday in the U.S. and second Sunday in May, so today. And in honoring of mothers, I thought we would do a sermon over what mothers deserve, especially looking at it from a biblical perspective. So it's going to be a little different than normal. I'm not going to have a passage. It's going to be a lot of little passages along the way. But first off, I thought we should look a little bit at the holidays and how it originated. In 1907, it was Anna Jarvis of Philadelphia who started the campaign to honor mothers. So she thought that mothers needed a holiday after her mother had passed away, and she went out and thought that we need to do this, went to Philadelphia, and I think it was 2 years, I guess it was 3 years later, and West Virginia became the first state to honor Mother's Day. And then a couple years after that, in 1914, Woodrow Wilson officially made it a national holiday, being Mother's Day. I also found it a little funny to find out that Anna Jarvis, not 4 years later, got thrown in jail for protesting Mother's Day. So I thought that was kind of an interesting fact. In 1923, she also filed lawsuits trying to get the government to end it, because she said the commercialization of it didn't honor what she wanted. We get caught up so often in this country in commercialization and doing things for profit instead of sentiment. Mother's Day should be a sentiment. It should be a holiday. I'm not saying it's wrong to give your mothers gifts or flowers or whatever you want to give your mothers, but it's time. It's the sentiment. There's so much more that mothers deserve than one day a year. I even bought my mom some gifts, and by saying I bought her gifts, I think Gretchen probably did more than me. But we got her things, because you shouldn't take time to especially look at your mom and see all that she's done for you. She's done so much. But it's a whole year that we need to spend honoring our mother. It's more than one day. There's things that we should do. So in looking at this, I have found a few things, 6 things in the Bible that talk about mothers and what you should do in honoring them, what they truly deserve. The first is obedience, respect, affection, wisdom, righteousness, and care. This is what a child should give his mother. So we'll look at obedience first, being in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Well, that sounds pretty simple and straightforward, but I think it's a lot harder. And then in Colossians 3:20, it says, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. I think there's been a lot of times in my life growing up, I may not have pleased the Lord. I think that I might have gotten astray. And luckily, my mother was kind enough to correct me, one time with the hose. I have to bring it up because it's Mother's Day. I was beaten with the hose, and it was horrible, and I didn't deserve it. It was the one time I truly got spanked, and I didn't earn it. But it's okay. I think it's fine. I think I earned it other times that I didn't get it. So, like we said, there's a hole in the ceiling.
I'm glad I did it now as many times as he's brought it up. So, the first thing is obedience, and you need to obey your parents, for it is pleasing to God. And we need to give our mothers that obedience, that respect that she deserves in it. As Solomon counseled his son, he said, do not forsake the law of your mother. In Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Do not forsake the law of your mothers. Mothers lay down law. And I have so many different ways. My mom, I know this is going to be a bad day for mom, but there's ways that she lays down the law with obedience, and mothers have a look. Every child knows this look. I remember mom was grooming a dog one time, and I was little. I was a little tiny guy. I was hyper, and I was running all around, doing all my things, as a little kid. And she said, Will, stop moving. And I, blah, blah, blah. I just went one ear out the other. Just kept going, kept going. And then she looked at me,
and I thought the world had ended. I realized I should have stopped and obeyed. I should have not have forsaken the law of my mother. And that's the thing. Obedience is something mothers deserve. And it's not just because we should respect them, but they're there because they love you. Like Christ loves you and gives you rules to obey. They're not there to hold you back. They're there because a mother loves her child. So she'll look at you in a way that stops the world. Obedience is the first. The second being respect. In Ephesians 6, verse 2, honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. And it may be well with you, and you may live long on the earth. Solomon warned against us, and there will be grave consequences for those that do not, or who curse their parents. You can also go to Proverbs 20, verse 20. If someone curses their father and mother, their lamp will be snuffed out, and they will live in pitch darkness. I don't want to really think about that too much, but I think that I may have done things that didn't honor my mother. I may have done things that she was unhappy with, or that I wasn't as respectful. And you need to think about that. They deserve your respect. They deserve you to love them. They deserve you to be there with them. A Chinese proverb says, respect for one's parents is the highest duty of civil life. And I don't really pull from much of that very often, but I thought that was very fitting, that to respect your parents is a very high calling. It's very important for a child to respect their parents. It's one thing to be obedient, it's another to respect. They're two separate things. Do we give our mothers respect? I'm not going to say anything about me being the favorite child. It's obvious. But my sisters, sometimes I've heard them say things and I think, that's not respect. And I've heard others say things that I wonder if it's respect. And every time I go to the mall, I always hear children talking to their parents. And do you ever just sometimes you're walking through there and the children are talking to a mother in a way that you're just like, I would have never dared. I cannot believe that they get away with that. And it's because there's that lack of respect. They may be obedient, but respect is missing. Mothers deserve both. Not just one day a year, but all year. The next is affection. And when we look at our mothers and we're children, they've loved us our whole lives. A mother loves her children. And every day of her life, she just cares for you. She worries about you. And there's so many things. I know that my mom worries about me constantly. I've lived a life that was very uncertain probably up to this point, and she's been a little concerned. But how hard is it to truly say, Mom, I love you? To show her that affection through words, through time, through actions. Just going and seeing your mother, talking to her, showing her that not only does she love you, but you love her in return. I think one of the hardest things a mother can feel is when she doesn't feel loved by her child and she loves them. I don't know I'm not a mother, and I can't imagine that, but I know that if I feel unloved by somebody that I love, it's very hard. And if a mother's love is so deep for her child, then that's something that we should easily express back to her. We should love her, and it doesn't take much to show that love. It's very simple. A call or a text or any little thing can really get to her. And I think that that's something that I struggle with, is showing my mom the proper affection that she deserves. To show her that I love her, I do not take her for granted, and I'm thankful that she is my mother. The next is wisdom. In Proverbs 10, verse 1, a foolish son is a grief on his mother. That's just pretty blatant, I think. It is a grief on his mother. A foolish son is a grief. One time my mom got the blessing of walking out of the house just in time to see me jump off the 2-story barn. And I could tell that it grieved her immediately because I was a fool. I had a little tiny section of mat about 3 feet across, about 8 feet long, and I thought, I won't miss it. I'm going to hit it. And I knew for a fact. I jumped off that barn, not even a doubt in my mind that I'd miss it. And like it's crazy too, because we had the horse tie up right there. There was like obstacles I had to jump around. Like it was a good jump. It's on YouTube. But I remember Mom being grieved by that foolish action. And I think about my life and all the times I've been foolish and I've grieved my mother. It happens so often. So, children, don't be fools, especially boys. Like, I'm sorry, you're the only child here that's a boy, but you're going to make your mom grieve. You're going to come out of the driveway one day in your bike and just wreck it, thinking that you're going to do something awesome. She's going to grieve. She's gonna say, that was foolish, but you're a boy. It's going to happen. Wait till you get a dirt bike. But mothers worry enough about their children. We should not give them unnecessary grief. We should avoid it. If there's any chance that we can be wise in our actions, we should be to save them grief because they already grieve enough. There's already enough of that there. Now, righteousness, moving on. The righteousness brings joy and gladness to their parents, those that are righteous. In Proverbs 23, verse 24 to 25, the father of a righteous child has great joy. A man whose fathers a wise son rejoices in him. May your father and mother rejoice. May she who gives birth to you rejoice. I cannot imagine that is just the greatest thing. When her mom looks at my life sometimes, she has to just be like, I did such a good job. Alright, maybe not all the time. But I think that when you live in a righteous fashion or you do things right, there's joy that you bestow because you were a part of it. And as a mom, I know that there's things like that. I know with my dad, I know there's things that I've done that he's been happy that I'm his son, that he's rejoiced in. And as a mother, they've rejoiced in. And that righteous child is a rejoice. It's a pleasure. And we should be that pleasure to our parents. We should love and obedient and be righteous and love Christ. Knowing that your child loves Christ is a rejoice. Knowing that they follow Christ is rejoice. And as children raised, we should be righteous children. Be joy to our parents. Be that love that faithfully follows. More importantly than any other achievement is a righteous character. Nothing makes a mother more proud than to have a good, righteous son or daughter. Today, true righteousness comes through faithfully following alone. Do you follow Christ? Are you righteous in your actions? Do you honor your mother and father? Now, care. This is my last point, is caring. Parents, especially widows and mothers, deserve care. They deserve you to love them, to care for them. In 1 Titus 5, verse 4, but if a widow has a child or grandchild, these should learn first of all to put their religion into practice by caring for their own